Newsflash, Floyd Rose now makes their original tremolo in the USA. Move over German manufacturing because we have one of the USA-made tremolos in the studio today. We're going to unbox it and go over all the new specs and changes. But I have two, so that means I should probably give one away, and you should probably stick around to the end to figure out how to get it. This is the Axe Guitar Show. Let's go. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Axe Guitar Show, your one-stop shop for tremolo tips and tricks. And oh man, like today is big. We're talking about the brand new USA-made original Floyd Rose tremolo. Yeah, you heard that right. Floyd Rose has officially brought production to United States in regards to the whole tremolo. So I hope you all are doing really well. Grab your coffee, your drink of choice, because we're going to get into some cool stuff with the original tremolo that's now made in the USA. Now, if you've been following along, you probably know that for decades, Floyd Rose tremolos were made exclusively in Germany by Schaller, but that partnership, things are looking a little different now. So, people are wondering why the change. What's new about these USA-made trims? And most importantly, are they any good? Well, today we're diving deep to answer those questions. And make sure you stick around because not only are we going to unbox one of these USA-made tremolos, but I've got the inside scoop straight from the folks at Floyd Rose. And we have two USA trims in the studio today. And I got to give one away. I got to give one of these bad boys. I just got to. All right, so starting off, for those of you that are new to the Floyd Rose universe, let's do just a quick recap. As you all know, Floyd Rose, the person and the company, really revolutionized the guitar market by creating the floating locking tremolo that was used on guitars and then adopted by Eddie Van Halen and now, basically the whole metal world. I won't bore you with that detailed history, but for the longest time, these tremolos were made by Schaller in Germany, and they became the gold standard. But over the years, Schaller started to make small design changes, things like CNC manufactured saddles, the bulkier trim arm housings, and these things weren't always in line with what Floyd Rose originally envisioned. Then in 2023, something strange happened. The Made in Germany stamp disappeared from the originals, and this is an original Floyd right here that does not have that stamp, and that's a good example of it. You can see that right there. No stamp on the actual base plate, nothing. And this is the trim that they started making in Germany through Schaller, and they removed the stamp, and this is when they went to the CNC saddles and the other changes. Now, the removal of that stamp got people thinking, what's going on with Floyd Rose, right? Now, here's where things get really interesting. Floyd Rose and their parent company, AP International, the company that, kind of distributes their products, decided to take control of the manufacturing process. Rather than relying on Schaller's production decisions, they started making parts in-house at their North Carolina facility. Now, before we go any further, I do want to clear something up. There are still Floyd Rose original trims being made in Germany by Schaller. I don't know the dynamic of the relationship in regards to the German production, if they're going to continue them or not, but this is just talking about the USA trims. So like we said, USA manufacturing started in North Carolina, and that's where they started making their CNC machined saddles, still made of hardened steel, but these saddles offer multiple radii, which we talked about in previous videos. So these multiple radii options are really nice for guitars that have different neck profiles or different radii, things like that, like compound radius. You can plug and play with those. But so we basically went from a lost wax casting process where the saddles were casted, and now we are CNC machining them in North Carolina. All right, and then proceeding down the storyline, there were some press releases before the announcement of the USA Tremolo. For instance, they put out the USA Made nut, and then they released some hardware packages with different colors of hardened steel kind of hardware that you could get from the Floyd Rose website. And then came the huge announcement at NAMM 2025. There, a full line of USA-made original Floyd Rose tremolos were on display, and that was the big reveal. So no more relying on a third-party manufacturer. These things are designed and built under Floyd Rose direct supervision, meaning, in my opinion, you can say what you want, but I would argue that we have better quality control, probably fewer inconsistencies and unexpected design changes, which, for a time there, consumers weren't sure what they were getting with the original Floyd tremolo. Were they getting a tremolo made in Germany with German quality without the stamp, how can you be so sure? How can you just take the internet's word for it at that point? And I think that's also what became a sticking point for Floyd Rose, and that's why, or at least one of the reasons why, they moved manufacturing, because at that point it's just like, let's take control of the situation, and I think that's probably the best move. All right, so the time has come. Let's unbox one of these bad boys, and then we'll go through the specs and talk about it. Always the best in the biz in giving you this great packaging, so your tremolo is gonna arrive in one piece. Oh man, you got the little, I think it says "Built in USA" stamp there on the parts box. All right, so here's the tremolo. We got the Floyd Rose logo right here, typical. Not really a big change there, but what we do have is we have a new stamp, guys. Original Floyd Rose. It says right there, Original Floyd Rose. That's where historically the Made in Germany stamp was, but now we have an Original Floyd Rose impression right there. And that, my friend, is awesome. So we've got the hardened steel saddle screws right here in black, and then the fine tuning screws here in black as well. And then you've got your saddle retaining screws right here, black. Looking at this trim, something I always go to right away, that's kind of like a quick gauge on quality, and what you should be looking for on these things, is right here, the base plate. Make sure it's one solid piece, and then where it bends and the fine tuning screws kind of insert, look to see if there's like a crimp in the metal or anything like that. I don't see that. That means this thing has been milled, or I guess, maybe even CNC'd. I'm not totally sure. To perfection. It looks good. I don't see any crimps, and I don't see too many divots in like the finish or anything like that. This looks really good. We got the standard 37 tremolo block, which I'm obviously going to, switch out for a fat brass block probably, because, I'm neurotic and I just have to tinker with everything I own. And then whenever you get a Floyd Rose trim, always make sure when you press the saddle screws down, everything's fluid, which money. Looks great. Now, if I'm comparing side by side, the USA made tremolo, the Floyd Rose emblem right here on the top, that's actually centered and looks a little bit better and more finished than the German one. The German one, the Floyd Rose sign is a little off, and the German base plate and saddles aren't finished very well compared to the USA. I mean, the USA one is flawless. I don't see any divots or anything like that. Really, the finish on it's great. And that goes along with one thing I noticed about these Schaller trims is kind of like the consistency. They used to be perfect in every way. The recent kind of variations, with some later Schaller made Floyds, there were small variations unit to unit. Sometimes the plating wasn't perfect, but sometimes the tolerances were a little loose. But this, the USA, everything feels locked in. All right, so let's actually break down what you're getting in the USA-made original tremolos. Right off the bat, you're getting a hardened steel base plate, which is kind of paramount to the original Floyd Rose design. Just like the classics, but with even tighter quality control, in my opinion. A nickel-plated brass sustain block. So this is one of the benchmarks to a quality Floyd Rose trim. If you've seen any of my other videos, the originals and the 1000 series have the nickel-plated brass tremolo block, whereas the special has kind of like a zinc product. So this is something that is really nice to get in terms of warmth and sustain. Obviously, it's a smaller tremolo block. I'm going to switch it out, like I talked about earlier, with a fat brass block or just something bigger. You got your brass fine tuners, and these come in that black, which I think is great. I love how they don't come in like a chrome kind of color and something you can distinguish from the other parts of the bridge. I know for the 1984 originals, which were phenomenal, they actually had the gold looking kind of brass color to it, and I thought that looked phenomenal. Now when we go to the tremolo arm housing, they went back to the original design. As you know, Schaller made those changes to the tremolo arm housing by putting in kind of like a blockier, bulkier design right here, and you would unscrew that whole cap and take off the housing if you needed to. But what happened was when they made this change, this thing is a lot bigger, and I'll show you some up close pictures here. This thing was a lot bigger than the original tremolo arm housing. So what happened was in the guitars, it was actually running into the actual routing of the guitar, And for some models, you wouldn't get the full range of motion of the actual Floyd Rose trim, which, I mean, you need the full range of motion so you can get the different adjustments in pitch. I mean, that's the whole point of having a tremolo. So now they went back to the old, smaller design where you have the kind of hex screw right here to take off the whole housing, which that was a big deal for a lot of people. That was a big deal for Floyd Rose. They're back to how they used to make it. Looks great. Now, some things that this USA made trim held on to when Schaller made some of those subtle changes that kind of spurred this whole saga was the CNC machined saddles, what we talked about. You can see they're kind of rounded on the inside, meaning that they need rounded saddle blocks, because that was a problem in the beginning. Schaller made these CNC saddles, but then the blocks were still square, couldn't lock down your strings. What's going on? So the blocks in here are rounded, and the CNC wells inside the saddle blocks rounded as well, because you have to fit a drill bit in there. No matter how small it is, you can't really make a right angle with a circular drill bit. So, all right, so Floyd Rose finally makes the USA trim. Why does it matter? Let's get into that. So what does this mean for all of us? I mean, I think it really means a few things. Better quality control. You're going to have less surprises and parts changing like unexpectedly on the trims, and now you'll know what to expect, like kind of how we used to in the past, how we used to have that made in Germany stamp just kind of let you know what you were getting and where. Now you have the original Floyd Rose kind of stamp right here, and we're back to knowing that your product is made well. You're paying the right amount of money for what you're going to get. And that's really nice if you're a Floyd Rose enthusiast or consumer. Another thing that I think is important to think about is that we're probably going to get more customization options. With USA-based production, Floyd Rose can be more flexible in offering different radius options, sustain block choices, and more. I mean, we're going to have different nuts. Who knows if they're going to have adjustable nuts, which, Hand Tug and other companies are making, which are phenomenal, because that becomes a sticking point when you put a trim on a guitar and you need the nut to be elevated just a little bit or kind of brought down back to closer to the actual fretboard. So, we got some things to look forward to, and definitely more customization option potential down the road. And so that was really my next point, like future innovations, right? We've already seen those 3D printed nuts. What's next? Who knows? But I bet we're going to see even more advancements now that they have full control over manufacturing, or at least a portion of the manufacturing in their hands. And I mean, also, lastly, more availability. You could argue, we're not going to have to wait for German shipments. They used to get shipments in bulk and then have to wait for a few. That's why they would sell out a lot. You'd see on the website, sold out, and then you'd see a ton, and then they'd be sold out. So now I feel like there's going to be, with production in the USA, these trims should be easier to get your hands on, which would be nice. Now, some obvious cons, there might be a price increase with this. I mean, if you're bringing manufacturing back to the USA, costs a little bit more to make stuff here. So I'm interested to see how the cost should fluctuate over time. I don't know how that goes into with the whole tariff situation with the current administration. Like, I don't know if, the USA made trim would actually be about the same price or cheaper because of some type of imposed tariff on German manufacturing. I don't even know. This is just speculation. Don't know anything about that. Just want to put it out there. And lastly, I'd argue it's just cool to see that original Floyd Rose stamp on the back, and so this is made in the USA. And it's great to have a USA, something that was originally designed in the USA by an American, made in America now. So I think that's a cool kind of, full circle moment now. All right, guys, so a couple things. I want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments. Do you have one of these? What do you think about this whole change? Let us know. Give us your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And secondly, I got to give this second one away. Yes, I'm going to give away a Made in USA original Tremolo by Floyd Rose. I know. Now, it's super easy to enter the giveaway. So if you want your very own USA-made Tremolo, listen carefully. The Axe Guitar channel running a shred contest in the next couple months, and the way to sign up and to know about it is through our newsletter/mailing list. So details about the shred contest and all the prizes that I'm going to be giving away will come out later, but you need to be signed up to this mailing list, and I will leave the link in the description below. Make sure you're signed up on that so you can get a head start in this contest and be signed up to win this USA-made original Floyd trim. Again, link in the description, sign up for the newsletter, and then you will get notified of when the shred contest starts, and then you can win this Floyd Rose Tremolo. All right, guys, thanks for listening to the show. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button below and hit like. And then if you're listening on audio, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, go ahead and give that a very high rating and let us know what you think. All right, later.